what I've seen is an increase of the eco influence upon jujitsu this year in 2025, and the baby steps at some academies I've been seeing integrating kind of elements of it, just in terms of like constraint-led games. Really, is sort of the tiptoeing into it as opposed to going full on souders, if you will, standard jujitsu. Although some schools have. Like, for instance, prior to this conversation, I looked at some of the Globetrotter videos, and some coaches are showing these, and I was wondering, what is this going to look like? A Globetrotters, class on YouTube doing this pure sort of like ego attempt style in a condensed amount of time versus like the traditional instructor led type of approach that it used to, which some teachers still do at these Globetrotter events, and it was pretty vastly different. So, give me your thoughts on the trend now, what you've seen this year, and as I said, the spectrum of it all.
There definitely is a broad spectrum of it. I have
Hmm.
experienced it both because I went to the Globetrotters in Iceland and I taught there, and there were some classes taught by Christian and a few other people that were 100% eco. Same thing when I went to BJJ in Paradise in Puerto Escondido, Mexico, the Inverted Gear and BJJ in Paradise camp.
Yeah, Nelson's big on it. Yeah.
Nelson and Preet taught completely ecological dynamics classes. They were completely constraint led. There was no information processing, no instruction at all. It was, I mean, there was instruction, but not instruction in the typical sense of it. And those classes were great. Actually, to be honest, props to Preet. Like, I had a lot of fun in his class, and I took his class like I would take a regular student as a regular student. The only thing being like, it is tiring compared to drilling or compared to just watching a class and learning. Like, your body has to do it. But I came up with stuff like all the stuff that he described, like it worked. Like, he gave a constraint, he kept on adjusting that constraint. He gave a starting condition, a win condition. It was beautiful. I absolutely love it. So, like, I enjoy the approach. I enjoy it as a tool. I think I fall down where, like, I'm not willing to throw away all of the style of teaching I've been doing for so long that I've seen be effective and only rely on this tool. Now, I might make a shift where I might shift this tool into the forefront. So, like, for example, I know Nelson shifted his whole gym to being constraint based and constraint led to be exact. And I think that that's an interesting at that point, led versus based, because it's allowing the students, as they say, that techniques to emerge, and you're leaving a lot of creative freedom in your students. And I think that the biggest strength of CLA is that you don't lock your students' mind down out of possibilities through dogma. And as someone who loves creativity, like, I love that part of it. The idea that I don't care how you get from A to B as long as you get there. They'll occasionally share, like, this is how, actually, I don't think Pre didn't do any of that. He refused to share how he gets from A to B. The way that I'll do it is I'll say, here, you can get from A to B however you want. I like to give people examples of, well, here's how I get from A to B. And there's a section of the class, the second I do that, they will only do what I do because they're like, I want to do the good thing. Coach is better than me at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to do what coach does. I think the argument is that if you share what you do, you're biasing the sample as if your students are a science experiment. You're biasing them in your direction. But I would say that if you leave the freedom open that they can customize and diverge, I think that that's also very good. On the other end of the spectrum is people saying things like, Eddie Bravo's rubber guard system that has, sometimes a 14-step path from mission control all the way to a go-go plata. That does not, I don't know that emerges in Eddie's exact sequence in a CLA model. However,
Hmm.
aspects of that system might emerge. But if you're a student and you're like, I want to roll like Jeremiah Vance, the way to get there is kind of copying his roadmap. He has very specific steps. And I think that there's people who prefer learning that. Just like everything else, I think there's going to be certain people who, if you drop them in a CLA class, they're going to hate it. They're going to be like, I'm paying you to teach me. You're not telling me what to do. I want to know what to do. There's people who don't thrive in uncertainty.
Yeah.
But there are other people who I think who don't like being told what to do, who don't like being told that this is the way, who are like a fish in water in them,
Hmm. Great.
which is why for me, I love it. I'm still studying it. I'm reading the books. I'm learning about it. I'm just not willing to take away some of the quality teaching methods that I have that are useful. I will never tell a student that my way is the only way, but I have to give Pre credit again because he did give some instruction. And the caveat that he gave, and the reason why I'm using Preet is because Preet and I have now twice had pretty epic conversations debating the merits of this. And so he's definitely a big influence on me just in he's willing to have the conversation and the conversation stays respectful, even though we're both very loud. I think if a third person watched the conversation, they might think that we're fighting and we hate each other, but we know that we don't. We're just loud and passionate. And I can just tell him what I think and he can give me honest feedback. And I really enjoyed that. Ironically, I posted a video recently of my class, and he's actually in the background of my class lifting weights during my class. And he had critiques of my class, and I came back. And at the end of the day, it's what is your goal with your class? Before I diverge myself too much, the constraints are given for safety. So, for example, there's certain ways of doing things that we have records. People who did this way injured themselves regularly. We probably shouldn't tilt and twist our neck simultaneously. We're going to hurt ourselves. We probably shouldn't heel hook ourselves and how that we're sitting back from guard and when we're getting swept. We probably shouldn't pick people up and slam them. So adding the extra constraints on the drill that keep people safe, I think, is really important. You can run a gym that way, and I think that they're proving it. Now, as far as getting to the tippity top, we're going to find out. I think the Corbet brothers are doing great. They're very, very good. I think they're probably the highest, most accomplished, truly CLA athletes out there. But we'll see. We'll see if there's enough people doing CLA that we're going to have a CLA world champion, right? Like no one believed in leg locks or John Danaher's style until Gordon won ADCC. All the way up until the day that he won ADCC, everyone was just like leg locks. There was still holdouts. Leg locks don't work. But once representative of your viewpoint reaches the top of the mountain, then it's kind of not debatable anymore. I think a very powerful place for CLA is the fact that I think that a CLA session is a training session. And I think I separate a training session from a class. Because I thought about my class I taught at BJJ in Paradise and Preet's class. In Preet's class, I was exhausted by the end. I got a good workout, and I had 3 or 4 new gems in my pocket for the topic that he was teaching. At the end of my class, I don't think that people were tired. I think they got a little bit of a sweat because I had some semi-lives in my drill, but it was more something where my goal at the end of my classes, my choke theory class, was that I wanted everybody at a minimum to know that the voices in your head are the reason why you can't finish your chokes, and you need to fight the voice in your head that says you need to readjust, maintain contact of the 2 arteries for 10 seconds, maintain that contact as you readjust, rinse and repeat, use that algorithm. How you use that algorithm is completely up to you. And I gave examples of how to do it with naked chokes, how to do it with arm in chokes, but then how to do it in the gi and no gi. But I also gave specific examples, with the goal being that the class member can take those specific examples, which I am teaching in the information processing style, and repeating that my way is not the only way. But I want you to see this through line. Here's one way of blocking the artery with an arm. Here's how you block the artery with some fabric. Here's how you block the artery with a shoulder. Now take this class and make your own. Now, the more advanced people might take, I like that exact Rafael Lovato inspired Darson the gi that Charles taught. I'm just going to steal that and do that exact set of details and put it in my game. Whereas some beginner might not be able to handle that. That was too much detail for them, but they will still remember what I wanted them to remember, which was 10 seconds, touch the arteries. And I think that as a coach, it turns into like, what do you want out of the class? Preet's class gave a beautiful training session for me to find some gems and hopefully put in my game. My class gave a big picture idea that I wanted you to get and then gave you a bunch of examples. Which class is better? You can't really say one class is better. They're very, very different. I can say that if I wanted a workout and I came to my class, I'd be disappointed. Didn't get a workout. I can say if I was tired and I went to Preet's class, I probably couldn't have finished it. And so I think it really is going to boil down to the fact that, in my opinion, all these classes have different styles and uses. I think that closing your mind off entirely to any one of them is bad. Oh yeah. A correlated thing. I recently went to New York a few months ago and I got to train with JT Torres. I went to his gym, went to his comp class. It was a gi comp class. I didn't realize I rented a gi. I did the whole thing. The class opened with 10 minutes of drilling. I don't think I had in my whole life not drilling like you're learning a technique. Hey, ironically, it was kind of constraint based. It was, I want you to start in a guard and I want you to sweep your opponent. Drill it. The main difference being between it and CLA is that there's no resistance happening. And I had to think of different ways that I wanted to practice sweeping and playing De La Hiva. And I ended up learning stuff. I ended up the same way I did in Preet's class live. I came up with ideas as I watched my partner drill on me. We went back and forth 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes for 20 whole minutes. It was the longest I'd ever drilled. I had jiu-jitsu imposter syndrome. I was partnered up with a purple belt, and I was like, this purple belt is going to think that I'm trash because my berimbolo isn't that sharp, or like
Hmm.
doesn't I don't play the gi that often. Like, but at the end of the day, I learned from him and he learned from me. The main difference was there was no resistance. Now, could I hit those moves that I came up with? No, but I think that it stimulated my mind, and then I can add it later with resistance. Because learning how to move my body in different and novel ways and seeing how my partner moves their body in different and novel ways is still useful even without the resistance. Now, there's an argument that says that if there's no resistance, then there's no point in doing it. But I still think that when gaining mobility in certain ways, taking the resistance away for a little bit is valuable. And after hating drilling for the vast majority of my jiu-jitsu, I had to be like, okay, this is what these drilling people have been talking about. I don't think that sitting down and doing 1,000 arm bars every day, short of it being a great core workout, is that good for you. But there's something there. And so I think the whole spectrum from the people, the Musumeci camp of drill, 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 all the way over to the Greg Souders camp, I think that there's something to be said there. I want to use all my tools. Different people don't like different tools, but I want all the tools. Back to my last point, because I'm kind of hopping around. I think that if you're a colored belt and you're not able to speak from a position of authority, right? You don't have 10 years, 20 years experience. You haven't won anything to say, this is the right way to knee cut. This is the right way to do whatever. Well, then it's very valuable to you to understand, well, instead of I want a knee cut, what is a knee cut doing? It's going from in between the legs, side control. Cool. So if I'm a blue belt and I want to run a little training session with my friends, CLA is amazing. I don't have to have the answers. All I have to do is understand the starting position and the goal. And now game design is a whole different skill of itself. If you take a CLA class led by someone who's expert at game design, it's a whole different experience than somebody who saw one video and is just like, hey, pass my guard. Like, I really do think the big difference between CLA and just specific training or positionals is the thoughtfulness and the granularity of the starting position and the goals.
Agreed.
Because for me, I've always loved thin slicing. For years, I've been thin slicing. I want to get good at just this piece.
Hmm.
And the narrower my goal is, the more reps I get in that particular context, the better I get in that context. The broader I make it, because at the end of the day, a regular roll is a constraint-based game. The constraint is
Hmm.
submit your opponent. Starting
Hmm.
from where? From nowhere. Go.
Hmm.
Right? It's completely wide open. Or if you're a points player, score a point on your opponent. Right? But when we narrow it more, okay, I want you to start. Your partner's going to have you in a leg entanglement. That just means they're going to have one hand on your leg and their leg entangling you. Any leg entanglement they want. So I'm going to leave the entanglement open. They have leg, and then your job is to play like someone who's trying to separate. You win if you separate. Boom, play that game. Play the next game. You win if you get on top. Play that game. Boom. By simply changing the win condition. Or you make it narrower. I want you to start in saddle, or I want you to start in single leg X. There's an infinite number of permutations of games, and the whole goal is, as the coach, what am I trying to get my students to learn? And based on what I'm trying to have them learn, I'm going to change the constraints. And I think that good coaches are realizing that there's a value there. I also personally think that being able to constrain the intensity allows it to happen longer. I think one of the big things, a lot of the people that I hear speaking almost as like eco zealots are like, it has to be full resistance. And I'm like, dude, if you get an older person, they're not going to be able to go full resistance for an hour. That's just
Hmm.
not realistic. Like let the same way that you're being open to everything else, like turn the volume down. Now, I've never heard Greg say that. I should probably listen to more of Greg's stuff because he has become kind of the spokesman for eco. But my friend Rob from the Northeast, Rob Cole, I think the way that he said it, I can agree with. He said, the real question is, if you disagree or agree with ecological, is do you believe in training in context or not? Because his entire thing is what the game is giving you. It's giving you a starting position. It's giving you context as to why the heck you want to learn this thing. And that students are going to do better in learning if they've had the problem you're trying to solve. If I just got triangled, right, trying to pass somebody's guard putting my arm inside, my coach telling me don't put one arm inside is a lot more salient at that point in time. If I just get a 18-step guard passing procedure and one of those steps is me not putting my arm inside, I might forget that until I actually get triangled. But if I've been triangled first, suddenly that extra detail matters. And maybe I don't need all 18 details. I need the details to solve my current problems. And in that regard, I really agree with him. Like I said, I refuse to get involved in the ecological purity tests of whether you're doing it right or not. But I do think they have so many good things that they do and talk about. It's just the weird tribalism that I can't get behind of you're doing it wrong, you're eco, you're not all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to be a part of that.
yeah.
But context is brilliant. So if I can design a game that makes my students run into the very problem that I want them to fix in their jiu-jitsu and then teach them that problem, teach them that solution, or teach them that they need a solution to that problem, I can create a very powerful lesson.
It's interesting because a couple of things that you touched on there, one of which was, I talked to a lot of academy owners, and so I get this anecdotal sort of information. Some of them are like, yeah, we tried to go eco, we lost a ton of students because you're talking about these hobbyists who are coming maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and then they're going through this. As you mentioned, it can be exhausting unless you're a really adept facilitator who can adjust for that. And then other ones saying we're all in. This is working great for us, especially the beginners, which I can see if you get someone like a clean slate, I can see how that would work, or a kid really effectively. So I can definitely see both sides and all the interplay in between as well. So going back to what I mentioned in terms of just watching a video, let's say, for instance, one of the Globetrotter ones, and I won't name the person in particular, but a particular coach who is doing a Globetrotter instructional video all in this eco style. Boy, is it a boring watch unless you're an instructor or a teacher or someone who has the ability to facilitate it. Man, is it hard to watch, right? To watch someone try to discover what a T position is or how to avoid someone getting chest to back or you maintaining chest to chest, whatever it may be. You're there trying to wait for them to come to the epiphany. It's a tough watch. But then as the instructor side of me is like, this is fascinating because I can, when they get it, I can attune to what needs to be said and all this stuff to facilitate the emergence of what needs to be
Yeah.
learned.
I think that's a really good point. Well, because I think mirrors our original point, right? Of are we a sport or are we entertainment, right? Who is that person teaching the class for? Are they teaching the class for the people in the class or are they teaching the class for the people on YouTube? So it might very well just be that unless you're a coach or someone very much down the eco rabbit hole, that spectating an eco class is kind of boring and kind of hard. But taking eco class, but at the other end of things, I'm sure we've all been at a seminar where the coach, I'm guilty of this myself, where the coach loses what the heck they're talking about. And they've been talking for 20 minutes and then they say break and you're like, what the heck am I supposed to be doing? Like, he's been talking for 20, I don't even know, because in every gym I've ever been to has this where the coach says break, half the class just goes and the other half is looking at their partner. Hey, do you know what
Yeah.
he's talking about? No, do you know what he's talking about? And they're just looking at their neighbor like, what are we supposed to?
Totally.
And so I think that teaching or facilitating in the CLA style or ecological style, just like teaching in the traditional style, is a skill. And I think that as instructors get better and better, I'm sure there are ways that they can adjust how they teach so that it's more digestible for a YouTube audience, or it might just be that,
If it even is,
well,
you know what
I
I
think
mean?
I think I think the
It's
jazzercise or like aerobics. I don't know how fun it is to watch aerobics because they're just unless you're doing aerobics with them. In that same regard, I don't know how
not even
fun it would.
fun, beneficial, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you again, if you're a facilitator or an instructor of a class, okay, lots of value. If you're a student, I mean,
Well, so here's what I would say. I would say as the student on YouTube, I don't think you're gonna get value watching that by yourself at your house sitting down in a chair. But if you bring your friend over and you take the class as if you were there, I think then you could probably enjoy it. The same way how, like, have you heard of it's called GMB, Gold Medal Bodies?
mhm,
It's a movement program.
yeah,
And
I've heard of
so
it.
what they have, because I took the owner of it, we have a mutual friend in Japan, Jose, and I was working with him for an amount of time and I got the trial for his program and I started doing it. And the cool thing that he does in his trial is he's not just telling you how to do the moves. It's a 20-minute video and you do the whole 20-minute video with him. Every single thing that he's doing, you're doing. And you're learning the movement thing. So you're taking the class. He's not teaching you how to do a movement and then you turn the YouTube off, pause the YouTube, and then you do it. No, 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 no. The entire class, he explains in a moment. Then he's like, no, no, now you're going to do it with me. I think if you consume the ecological videos that way, they
Mm.
could be very valuable. Where when instead of watching the other people try to figure out what the heck's going on, you just take the cue and do it. And the cool thing is if they left it on there, it's a free timer because he's going to say, come back. So you look away from the YouTube screen while this poor other person is struggling to figure out or have whatever technique emerge. No, you just take the cue. He gave you ideally a starting position. He gave you a goal. He gave you constraints. Let the YouTube play in the background while you and your training partner do it. And I think that would be a way that you could probably enjoy watching those more. Now, how many people are going to do that unless at the beginning of the video you say, hey, YouTube audience, I don't want you to watch this. What I want you to do is to put it on in the background and pretend like you're here. I think if that little premise was put at the beginning of the video, I think you might have people enjoying this. Like, this is not a video to watch on your couch. This is a video to watch with a training partner. That's my attempt at, I think, making that style of thing because I think that it could be valuable if consumed in that manner.